Hey, welcome back to Pop Culture Graveyard. This week, back by popular demand, I'm going to bring you Volume 2 of Kick-Ass cover songs. I've got psych rock, I've got reggae, I've got hip-hop, and American takes on some German and Japanese favorites. Now, please join me for a cadre of kick-ass cover songs. Volume 2. Don't touch that dial. Before we get going, I just wanted to say if you're enjoying the music artists I'm bringing you, and you would like to help support the show, please consider joining my Patreon. It features unboxing videos, my latest vinyl finds, sneak peeks of upcoming episodes, and outtakes that wound up on the cutting room floor. If you're interested, please visit patreon.com/popculturegraveyard. And thanks. Before we get rolling, I just wanted to reiterate my hallmarks of a great cover song. I always feel it should retain what made the original special, while tailoring the song to the talents of the performer. Now then, let's get rolling. Up first, 8 Miles High by Husker Du. I purposely didn't mention this song in my Husker Du episode, which you can reach by clicking above, simply because I knew I wanted to feature it in one of my cover songs episodes. I toyed with including their cover of the Mary Tyler Moore theme, Love Is All Around, as sort of a goof. But as far as covers go, nothing can touch Husker Du's take on this psychedelic classic. The original version of 8 Miles High is of course by the Byrds. Husker Du used 8 Miles High as their warm-up song in the studio, anytime before they were about to record or simply practice. And the original song's off-kilter rhythms and murky production lend themselves to Husker Du's Wall of Fuzz execution. The Byrds' original is a great song, and like a lot of great songs, everyone tries to take credit for writing it. Byrds singer Gene Clark has said he basically wrote the song by himself, with a little bit of help from the Rolling Stones' Brian Jones. Byrds singer-slash-guitarist Roger McGuinn has stated that he came up with the entire theme of the song. Regardless of its origins, it's miles ahead of its time, and its style owes a nod to the jazz, especially John Coltrane, that the band were listening to at the time. Sometimes called the first psychedelic song to be released, I would argue it's Shapes of Things by the Yardbirds. But the Yardbirds song is not as influential as 8 Miles High. How badass is the Byrds recording? It not only influenced the Beatles, but the guitar style of the Velvet Underground. That is a wide swath of influence. The greatest compliment I can pay Husker Du about their cover is that it sounds like a Husker Du song. If you didn't know either Husker Du or the Byrds, there's nothing in this rendition to denote it's anything but their own material. While the Byrds' original is chiming, shimmering, and mind-expanding, Husker Du's version is punishing, relentless, and face-melting. The genius of the Byrds' original is that there's plenty of room to stretch out and redefine the boundaries of the song. And for a band that colored outside of the lines as much as Husker Du, that was irresistible. Whether you believe the Byrds' original was about a plane flight they took, or despite the band's denials, you still believe it's an LSD song. What's not up for debate is its greatness. By the way, every record collection should at least have the Byrds' greatest hits. These guys were phenomenal. Up next, New York Groove, Ace Frehley. The original version was by Hello. Is it me you're looking for? New York Groove appeared on this, one of 4 solo albums to be released by each member of Kiss on September 18th, 1978. It features the future rhythm section of the world's most dangerous band, the house band on Late Night with David Letterman, Anton Fig on drums, and Will Lee on bass. Featuring great songs such as Snowblind and Ozone, Ace's album is the best of the Kiss solo albums by far, and Ace's cover of New York Groove was the most successful song on it, reaching number 13 on the US Hot 100 singles chart. The song was originally made popular by the UK act Hello. Though New York Groove was one of Hello's most popular songs, the band became a success by packing their 1976 debut album with a slew of covers, including songs originally made popular by Chuck Berry, the Rolling Stones, the Crystals, the Exciters, Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, and others. New York Groove was written by Russ Ballard, who rose to fame as the lead singer and guitarist of the band Argent. Russ wrote several great Argent songs, including God Gave Rock and Roll to You, which was later covered by the early 90s lineup of Kiss, featuring Bruce Kulick on guitar. Russ wrote hit songs in a variety of styles for a variety of artists, perhaps my favorite being I Know There's Something Going On by Frida. Don't judge me, this is a banger. Anyway, when you hear Hello's original version, You may be taken aback by just how faithful Ace's cover version of New York Groove truly is, yet somehow it manages to sound way heavier and way more exciting. How did Ace do this? Well, first, Ace had a genius producer in Eddie Kramer. Second, Ace is from outer space. And by outer space, I mean the Bronx. Everything from the Bronx comes out just a little bit harder. The Bronx don't play. Up next, Cherry O Baby by the Rolling Stones off their album Black and Blue, originally by Eric Donaldson. This rather unsung album is a late-era favorite of mine. I love its laid-back, funky vibe. At the time of this album's recording, the Stones were in love with, if not obsessed with, reggae. The band had already recorded in Jamaica. The band had signed reggae artist Peter Tosh to their own Rolling Stones label, and Keith owned a house in Jamaica, where he let Peter Tosh stay. Peter Tosh later thought the house was given to him, and that created problems. And even on the inside of the gatefold, you can see Keith Richards wearing a Bob Marley Natty Dread album shirt. So they knew a great reggae song when they heard one. And Eric Donaldson's Cherry O Baby is a great reggae song. A former house painter, the melody to the song came to Eric while he was painting, and the lyrics quickly followed. A sweet, irresistible love song with carefree, straight-ahead lyrics. Cherry O Baby became so popular, it has been covered over 30 times. Most famously by UB40, whose cover version went to number 12 on the UK charts. But as far as covering the song, the Rolling Stones beat UB40 to the punch by 7 years. The Rolling Stones' drunken, stagger-step rendition of Cherry O Baby is the right kind of lazy. And for an album that sometimes gets defined as a jam album, their loose cover of Cherry O Baby sums that up better than most. Cherry O Baby won the Jamaica Festival Song Competition in 1971, so this is the track's 50th anniversary, and we should all be celebrating by listening to every version of this amazing song. Up next, Hounds of Love by the Futureheads. The original version is by Kate Bush, off her album of the same name. Is the Futureheads version going to supplant Kate's version as my favorite? Hell no. But it ticks off all the boxes for a great cover. It reminds me of the greatness of the original without stepping on the original's toes. And the band reworked the song a bit to play to their strengths. And the strengths of the Futureheads are group vocals, crisp pop arrangements, and a throwback sound. The Futureheads' overlapping syncopated rhythms help to make this song their own, as does the angular guitars and crisp drumming. The band definitely explored all the rock and roll possibilities lurking in Kate's original, without betraying the heartfelt intentions of the lyrics. Kate's song speaks to the fear of being in love, and/or the fear of sex, and leaving yourself vulnerable to being hurt by a loved one is likened to the terror of being chased by hounds. At one point, the song's subject takes a terrified fox in her hands. Like the fox, the subject of the song is scared. But unlike the fox, the subject suffers from an irrational fear, because the hounds of love aren't actual hounds, unlike what's chasing the fox. And their vicious barking is only taking place in her own fearful mind. I especially love the line, "Take my shoes off and throw them in the lake, and I'll be 2 steps on the water." A wonderfully sly line about trying to throw the quote-unquote dogs off the scent. It is a genius song, which makes sense because Kate is a genius, and the Futureheads version is a highlight on their brilliant 2004 debut album, which I included in my episode of my favorite 20 albums of the last 20 years, which you can reach by clicking above. Up next, Molly's Lips by Nirvana, which is available on their Incesticide compilation. I'm holding up the picture disc version simply because it's fun, although I much prefer the rubber ducky side to the disturbing image on the front. The original version of Molly's Lips is by the Vaselines. Nirvana leader Kurt Cobain was a really big fan of the Scottish duo Francis McKee and Eugene Kelly, known as the Vaselines, as Nirvana covered not only this song, but also the Vaselines' classics Son of a Gun, Dying for It, and Jesus Wants Me for a Sunbeam. In fact, Kurt called the band's Dying for It EP, which houses 3 of the 4 songs I mentioned, as his 4th favorite album ever. From the first listen, I dare you not to be charmed by this simple love song. What you might not realize, though, is that the lyrics speak to a love of the drug ecstasy, sometimes referred to as Molly. Vaseline's co-leader, Eugene Kelly, struggled with an addiction to the drug, and this song appears to have been written in the blissful days when he was still addicted. In other words, when he wasn't good and clean. If Nirvana's Rockin' cover is your introduction to the song, you'll probably be surprised by how soft, sweet, and childlike the Vaseline's original sounds. Incidentally, if you like the Vaseline's version and you want to explore further, I highly recommend this 2009 comp from Sub Pop. I bought it back when it came out feeling like a total poser because I couldn't track down all the band's original EPs, which were super hard to find at the time. But I ended up having the last laugh because the word on the street is, this triple album is the best the songs have ever sounded. It's got the band's EPs, their at the time only full-length album, several demos, and even a live show. Nirvana's cover of Molly's Lips is outrageously good, and they don't even cover the entire song. They pick a couple of stanzas and drive them into the ground, and it's great. The treatment Nirvana gives Molly's Lips is not all that different from their rock and roll version of the song Polly when they would play it live. And much like I mentioned about Husker Du, if you did not know the Vaselines, you would totally believe that Molly's Lips was a Nirvana song. Nirvana did exceptional cover versions, as evidenced by their covers of The Man Who Sold the World and Love Buzz. Nirvana's cover versions of Vaseline favorites gave the band such a resurgence that they decided to reform and put out new material. If you enjoy what you hear from the Vaselines, you can check out The Way of the Vaselines, A Complete History. But if you want the band on vinyl, this is probably all you're ever going to need. Up next, The Model by Big Black. Originally done, of course, by Kraftwerk. How great is that? A for effort. This cover is so damn aggressive. Yet at the same time, it's Big Black at their most accessible. What does that tell you about Big Black's original material? When you hear Big Black's industrial take on this song, with guitars playing that infectious riff that you've only previously heard played by synthesizers, it is exciting. The original is a wonderfully robotic, yet gloriously melodic song about a model who loves cameras way more than men, but who is willing to play the game to become a success. And success, ironically, only makes men want her more. Kraftwerk's vocals in general often sounded removed from the material, but a bit of a sarcastic bite definitely comes through in the case of The Model. Big Black's version doesn't try to do too much with the song, instead letting their signature sound do it for them. The effect reminds me a lot of Killing Joke, a band who never let raw aggression get in the way of a great melody. One other cool thing about this Big Black single, the other side of the single, features another cover, He's a Whore by Cheap Trick, which came out on Cheap Trick's debut album. I gotta say, Steve Albini really lucked out in the band photo shoots, as his less appealing looking bandmates can't help but make him look, by comparison, like a Tiger Beat centerfold. This split covers single was put out by Touch and Go Records, and it is fantastic. Up next, I'm Housin by Rage Against the Machine. The original version by EPMD off their debut Strictly Business. This Renegades album sees Rage cover everyone from Cypress Hill to Bob Dylan to Minor Threat to Eric B. and Rakim to the Stooges. It's a fantastic album, and I honestly could have picked any track off it for this episode, but I've always loved EPMD. And Rage not only did an exceptional cover, but they turned the head-bopping classic into a slow-burn epic that slithers out of the speakers and explodes into a quintessential Rage rocker. They make this track their own, so much that you will not believe it's not a Rage song. Their cover is fiery and defiant and powerful, so much so that when you hear the original, it's going to be like you're downshifting gears, making this sound even more silky smooth than it already is. This song has always had one of my favorite opening lines in hip-hop. Coolin' on the scene like a horse in a stable, a brother got ill and tried to snatch a fat cable. Tried to steal his gold chain. I stepped back like it wasn't no thing. I punched him in the jaw with the fat gold ring. In other words, the guy wanted to steal his gold, and he was like, you want some gold? Here's some gold, and punched him with his gold ring. How genius is that lyrical construction? That stanza, like the entire song, describes such a stressful ordeal with such a laid-back style. Musically, EPMD's track samples Aretha Franklin's Rock Steady off her Young, Gifted, and Black album, and the lyrics are as tasty as the groove. As far as making the song their own, Rage only uses the first two parts of their original song. They also take a great little section, which is rapped by Eric Sermon, the E in EPMD. EPMD stands for Eric and Parrish Making Dollars. But for now, since everything's calm, relate to the matter as I drop the bomb, which is essentially the crux of the entire song. Rage takes that last line, relate to the matter as I drop the bomb, and they go call and response with it on the chorus. Whereas the original chorus had the self-referential, EPMD is a world premiere. Rage not only now made the chorus an evergreen for any band that ever wants to cover it, but they made it the skeleton upon which they drape the rest of the song. And it's brilliant. That's how you cover a song. By the way, I highly recommend not only the debut album of EPMD, all three of these albums are just jam-packed with bangers. If I was going out to do a hip-hop set, I would always bring all three of these albums with me. And space in my DJ cases was at a premium, and I still jam these guys in there. I was lucky enough to grow up in the golden age of hip-hop. EPMD were at the very top of their game. There's a reason they were Phife Dawg's favorite rap group, so get on this. And finally, if you've followed me this far, perhaps you'll follow me a little farther. I was a big fan of the female-fronted Japanese pop phenomenon known as Shonen Knife. And believe it or not, there's an entire Shonen Knife tribute album of cover songs. Every band has a Shonen Knife who loves them. And it's a double album! How crazy is that? Bands such as Sonic Youth, Red Cross, 3 O'Clock, Government Issue, L7, and others give their twisted take on Shonen Knife's adorable catalog. I could have picked several songs off here, but I'm going with Big Dipper, who were a very underrated punk band that was born out of the ashes of The Embarrassment, a punk band I really love. Their song Artistic Party took over my life for a few months, way back when I discovered it about 20 years ago. Anyway, Big Dipper were a great band, and they cover one of my favorite Shonen Knife songs, Bear Up Bison. The song was featured on their Let's Knife album, which was their first full-length album featuring all English lyrics. I have to bring up Kurt Cobain again. Kurt Cobain turned me on to this band. Some of their songs were on his list of favorites. Kurt really had a soft side that just fell in love with all the right bands. As I was saying, Big Dipper cover Bear Up Bison, but they don't just cover it, they also rename it, Making Plans for Bison. Yes, like the XTC song, Making Plans for Nigel. The song is about, wait for it, a bison and how he's on the way to extinction, and though he's ugly and ill-shaped, the girls only want the best for him and deliver the pep talk chorus, Bear up bison, never say die. The original is as sugary and sweet as the cover is ragged and raw, and it's just one of the fantastic songs on this comp. Honestly, if I can just make one person who doesn't know Shonen Knife fall in love with them, this entire episode was worthwhile. Incidentally, this vinyl comes with 2 discs, one white and one pink, which only enhances the candy sweet feeling of Shonen Knife's songs. Incidentally, this album is a great album, Let's Knife, and should serve as a really good introduction to Shonen Knife for the uninitiated. But my favorite Shonen Knife song is not on here, and it's not on the tribute album I just showed you. It is their Christmas song, Space Christmas, that came out on the label Seminole Twang way back in 1991. It is an adorable Christmas song, and one that you should be playing next month. The chorus is Merry Merry Christmas, Happy Happy Christmas, Merry Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year. And it rocks. It features Space Christmas, the B-side Bear Up Bison, and Christmas Message 91, where the band wishes you a happy happy Christmas. So when you're making your Christmas mixtape this year, add Space Christmas. That's my public service announcement. I hope you enjoyed this installment of kick-ass cover songs. Let me know in the comments which ones are your favorite, and feel free to throw some titles at me for the next installment. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week with a lot more cool stuff.